We are about to go over one of the biggest factors when it comes to getting a hair transplant. For most of us, at least, it's the cost. We are in a recession, but that don't mean you can't get your hair back. So I'm going to go over some options you can look at when it comes to price for a hair transplant. Most people in the United States really only go to two places for a hair transplant. They stay in the US or they go to Turkey. There are other options such as countries in South America, India, South Africa, but to keep it simple for today, we are just going over USA and Turkey, which are two of the most popular countries that do solid hair transplants. Getting a hair transplant is a serious surgery. You probably won't die from it, hopefully, but your head can come out looking like a sandbox if you're not careful on where you go. And just because you pay high-end prices does not mean you're going to get high-end results. In America, you can expect a hair transplant to range from $10K minimum upwards to $30K depending on how bad your balding is and how many grafts you want. Now I know what you're thinking. Man, that's a lot of money. Luckily, I spent the money so you don't have to. So I went to Bosley in March 2023, and here is the pricing table I got for my consultation. Bosley runs deals throughout the year to lower the cost constantly. These are just starting prices. They can fluctuate depending on when you go. So just letting you know that your paper might be different from mine, but this is what I got in my consultation. So I got 1,600 grafts. Now, how many grafts you realistically need is very important when choosing where to go. Keep this in mind. I'm going to touch on it a little bit later. And I got the deal which lowered the cost. In America, you are charged by graft. So in my case, each graft costs $7. Bosley gives you 100 grafts for almost half the price, costing $4. I told them take as many of the 100 grafts you like, and they stopped at 77 grafts. So giving me a total of 1,677 grafts. Quick maths. 1,600 times 7 equals $11,200, plus the 77 times 4, giving you $308, combining to a total of $11,508.
But wait, there's more.
Bosley also gives you a healing kit, which comes with a daily nutrient graft spray, a nightly nutrient graft spray, an antibiotic ointment for your donor, and a Q-peptide and conditioning shampoo, which costs $595.
Damn.
Total cost of my hair transplant, $12,103. Now this brings you back to the last thing you were thinking.
I'm all out of money!
But guess what?
This is America.
They do have payment plans like Care Credit, allowing you to pay off the cost in increments, but this doesn't build your credit, so you might as well use a credit card if you're going to use that method. So that's America. Now that that's out the way, let's head over to the hair transplant capital of the world, Turkey. I picked out 3 clinics and spoke with a consultant to go over my best options for pre-hair transplant. These clinics were Heva, Vera, and Cosmetica. Sorry to the consultants that were just doing their job and trying to get a sale. I was doing this for research purposes, so shout out to y'all though. Now I know what 50% of y'all are thinking. Bro, those are all hair mills. And the other 50% are now thinking, huh? Hair mills are hair transplant clinics where most, if not all, of the surgery is done by technicians and not the doctor, which allows for multiple procedures to be done at the same time. You probably heard stories or seen videos where the person states that they didn't even get the chance to see the doctor, they only heard from the doctor one time the whole time they were there, or they had a brief interaction with the doctor, but the doctor did not perform any of the work on their procedure. Or the doctor came in to do a few things, but most of the surgery was not performed by them. I guarantee you, if you looked up a hair transplant clinic, all the ones that you've seen are hair mills. And just because it says doctor on the clinic name does not mean it's not a hair mill. These hair mill marketing teams are amazing. Thousands of reviews, pictures, success stories, you name it. But just like 50% who knew about hair mills and didn't, there's a 50-50 chance that you might end up having a bad hair transplant because of it. What bad is depends on the person, but most of the time, the front transplanted area looks really good. It's the donor that suffers from being over-harvested by inexperienced technicians. Unfortunately, finding a doctor who performs the surgery themselves that have good reviews, success stories, and notoriety is rare, like rare, mostly due to hair mills overshadowing them. And a lot of people just don't like to share their journey and they like to keep it private. So to combat this, you want to vet the clinic as much as you can by doing as much research as you can. You want to know how many grafts you need to get the results you're looking for. Here's a graph chart that shows how many grafts you need for which Norwood you fit under to get good coverage and density. If you do go over 4,000 grafts, just know your donor can and will take a hit due to there being 5,000 to 7,000 safe grafts you can take from your donor where it doesn't look patchy and damaged. Saying all that and knowing most of us will still be choosing a hair mill, including myself, I went to Bosley, but I came out with successful results, and I talked about that in my last video. So they're not all bad, it just depends on the techs, which is risky because you never know which good techs and which bad techs are there day to day. So I chose these 3 clinics because they do have very successful hair transplant recipients. Of course, there are some that are better, but there also are some that are worse. Here are the prices that I found for each. So here are the 4 pictures that I used to get this consultation from each clinic. Here is Heva. They wanted to give me 4,000 to 4,500 grafts for $3,500. Vera wanted to give me 2,650 to 2,955 grafts for $3,203. And Cosmetica wanted to give me 3,000 grafts to 3,500 grafts for a total of $3,650. So these are all packages. This price is for the luxury hotel and a procedure, but you'll have to pay for your plane ticket. And here are the amounts when I add the flight costs. Which brings us to the question, how do I choose between Turkey and America? When choosing a clinic, before you go into all the vetting, these 2 factors are the most important things that will contribute to your choice: price and comfortability. Assuming most people are comfortable driving to their nearest city, getting a hair transplant, and coming home and chilling out for the rest of your day, while your scalp tries to figure out why the hair it got rid of is back.
I built this shit. Me. Brick by brick. And I'll be damned if I let you tear it down just because you don't
Want to go bald.
You have to sacrifice price if you live in the US for that comfortability. If you flip that and pay half the price of what it costs here in the US for flying to another country, dealing with language barriers, foreign currency, and just being out of your own environment, you'll have to sacrifice that comfortability for the price. You know yourself more than anybody, and you'll have to make that decision on which one is more important to you. I would never want anyone to put themselves in a bad financial situation or uncomfortable position. So take your time, reflect, do your research, and go get that hair transplant.